There's going to be an enormous economic boom in corporate America. They're posting record profits.
First time ever in history where we've got record layoffs with record profits.
Record profits and record layoffs because AI and robotics and automation are replacing human beings. The companies that are not adopting these things are going to get absolutely annihilated. You can automate a fucking hot dog cart. Even Trump is admitting now, in the short term, this is going to be really rough.
A lot of your scary predictions have already come true. Musk came here and they gave him all kinds of tax breaks because he was going to bring all kinds of jobs. And he brought robots to build the robots. So I'd love for you to kind of walk us through, what are your updated predictions?
I'm going to challenge people. Now I'm really going to piss everybody off. You ready? Promise you one investment you'll never lose money in is... Hi, welcome back to the Trainwreck Show. I'm Perry Belcher.
The biggest pain in the that ever lived.
Or the unstoppable power of sales and marketing, along with the immovable block of cheddar cheese that is Emma Rainville.
Why cheddar cheese?
The immovable.
What cheddar cheese?
I looked at you and thought of cheddar cheese. So the immovable block of cheddar cheese of operations. And we're here to answer the eternal question. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the show? No, we're going to talk about a bunch of cool stuff today, and we hopefully got a good show for you. Well, the Trainwreck's kind of a crazy show because we're kind of known to bicker and fight a little bit amongst one another, but really, honest to God, she's like the sister I never wanted. So what do you want to talk about?
You're like the grandfather that wouldn't die.
So what? Come on. Give it to me.
I would actually love to talk about, so during filming, we're in March of 2025.
Yeah.
This will probably come out at the end of March.
Okay.
And so there was several times between December and January that you did prediction calls for Ignite, for Driven Mastermind, and for our audiences. And a lot of it was a lot of your scary predictions have already come true. And so now that we're 3 months in with the layoffs that are happening, there's a massacre of livelihoods happening. We're getting into really exciting, but also scary times. I'd love for you to kind of walk us through, what are your updated predictions?
Boy, a lot of the stuff, you're right. Most of the stuff was fairly accurate. Not all of it, but a lot of it was. And I got a lot of that stuff from...
It was fairly accurate.
From a lot of other smart people.
People can go back and watch those recordings, and it's fairly freaking accurate.
But I don't think anybody predicted the flip of the egg that's happened since January 21st, right?
Right.
So Trump administration has really changed a lot of things up. But...
Well, you actually did predict that as well.
I did, but...
You did predict that as well.
It's been a lot more rapid than people thought. It's been a lot more radical than people thought.
Can I go back and say what you said about that?
Good or bad.
I want to go back and say neither of us are Trump fans.
Yeah.
Just like it or don't. Don't come at me in the comments. I'll just delete them. But neither of us are Trump fans. However, when Trump got elected, one of the things that you said was, I believe he's actually going to govern.
Yeah,
and
he's definitely governing.
And I believe that he's going to be very rapid and swift in the execution of what he does. Yeah. And we all kind of laughed at you because he was just going to go talk about how he had the biggest brain and he had a good brain.
It's not been the same.
It has not been the same.
Yeah, it's not been the same at all. And I think that, I
don't think any of us thought Doge and Elon Musk taking over the world was going to be a thing.
Whether you agree with all that stuff or not,
right.
It's very populist and everybody wants a more efficient government. Everybody wants to pay less tax. Everybody wants those things. So there is playing to the things that people want. And to be honest, it's a tough job. If you've got the whole government machine built around entitlements and programs and things like that, yeah, you're going to break some damn eggs. And there might not have been I hate to say, there might not have been a better way to do it. There might have just been you got to go into this thing with a bulldozer or like Musk with a chainsaw. I think the thing with Musk is funky.
I think it was a sink. Wasn't it a sink?
No, it was at Twitter. It was chainsaw. He takes on stage with him now.
Oh, Jesus.
Which is crazy. So I think that,
call him crazy. He's going to save our astronauts.
Yeah. So save your astronaut. So I don't know. I said when Trump was elected, yes, I did not support Trump. I didn't really support Kamala Harris either. I just kind of didn't support anybody. But I said when Trump was elected, He's the damn president. So
you get behind him and you get out.
Behind him just like you do the president of a company.
Yep.
And you're an idiot if you want to shoot the pilot in the back of the head while he's flying the plane you're riding on.
Yep.
So, I'm all for him being succurcul. I hope that he's successful.
Yep. Be committed to the success of our nation. Yeah.
But I have to, but looking at it from, and I always do this to politics regardless, you never know what's going to happen. And you can't, none of us are going to affect it really. So all you can do is react to it. So how do you
figure out how you make money off of it?
How do you make some money from it? So I might as well make some money. And I'll make a lot more money, chances are, during the Trump administration.
You say that all along?
Probably. It depends on what happens to inflation.
If he keeps suing you for putting his face on shirts.
It depends on what happens with inflation, because we can save a lot of taxes. I had an old boy years ago. And if you go back in your life, this is pretty crazy, by the way. I'm going to challenge people. Now I'm really going to piss everybody off. You ready?
Always.
If you're older like me and you go back in your life and you look at the periods that you were the most prosperous in your life, they're almost certainly, if you're a business owner, they're almost certainly going to be during Democratic administrations. It's just the truth.
Okay.
If you look at job creation numbers over the last 20 years, I forget how many, 15 million or 20 million jobs have been created. Almost none of them have been created under Republican administrations. Period. It's a fact. You can look it up. It's true. So small business owners typically do better under Democratic administrations. Now, is that because Republican administrations set that up and Democratic administrations reap that benefit?
Right.
Maybe. Right. That may very well be true. And sometimes it's just luck. I mean, Bill Clinton had a great run economically, but they happened to invent this thing during that time called the internet.
Right.
Right. So it was going to boom regardless. Right now, Trump's got AI. There's going to be an enormous economic boom in corporate America. There already is. Crazy. We were talking about before we came on, 45% of companies right now say that they're going to lay off heavily in 2025 people. Guess why? Because their profits are terrible. They're not making any money. Survey says, wrong answer, they're posting record profits.
Right. First time ever in history where we've got record layoffs with record profits.
Record profits and record layoffs because AI and robotics and automation are replacing human beings.
I've been saying it and saying it and saying it. It is a massacre of livelihoods. You're either going to learn how to operate robotics, AI, and automations, or you are going to get massacred. And that goes for people mowing the lawn. That goes for people turning a wrench. That goes for housekeepers. That goes.
It's going to be slower for some.
I agree. But those robots come out.
I get the urge about once every 6 months to eat McDonald's.
Gross.
And my girlfriend had never had a Big Mac. If you can believe that.
I can believe that. It's not food.
I love Big Macs. So we decided to go. They built a brand new McDonald's right by my house. The one that's right as you turn. It's brand new.
I'm sure it was built for you. They said, oh, this fat ass there. And he's got a boatload of Ozempic. Let's go set up shop.
So we went in there the other night and McDonald's looks very different. You go to a new McDonald's.
I don't think I've been in a McDonald's for 20 years.
There are 6 stand-up kiosks with video screens in the middle of the restaurant. There's a window this big where you go get your food, and you can see the people making the food in the back, and they're pressing buttons, right?
And all the food's being made.
There's 3. There are 3 employees in the entire restaurant. Restaurant was full of people. Everybody's gotten in line. They pushed their button. They ordered their shit. By the way, McDonald's has found they upsell 19% better with the screens than they did with humans.
Of course.
So you Biggie fries and all that shit.
You get some girl with blue hair and she weighs 220 pounds saying, you want apple pie?
Right. So there were 3 people in the restaurant that we could see anyway. And I'm pretty sure it's all the people were there. And they were servicing the car window and the restaurant.
Right. The dining room, the bathroom.
And you're watching them back there. This guy was making fries and I watched him. He pushed a button. The fries dumped into the basket lowered into the grease by itself, and you're looking at another one of these baskets, bringing the basket out, dumping it over here. An arm was shaking salt on it, right?
So I don't know if you remember this, but I think it was about 2 years ago, we were talking about McDonald's when McDonald's put in those kiosks, and inadvertently, they thought that they were getting rid of a whole bunch of labor.
Yeah.
And it created a ton of labor.
Yeah, because they needed more people to assemble the food.
And now,
Yeah, they're assembling the food with robotics.
right.
Yeah, and this is that McDonald's by my house has only been there. I think it opened this year.
Yeah, I'm sure if it's doing all of that.
Yeah, so it's doing all this stuff, and it's just crazy.
I don't think I've ever had an urge to go to McDonald's. I'm definitely dropping you off at home and going by that.
It's just a big vending machine now.
Yeah.
It's a big hamburger vending machine, which is just crazy.
Vending machine food tastes better. Probably has more nutrition in it.
Probably. But yeah, so you're going to get 45% of people laying off. You're already seeing major
45% of companies are going to be laying off people.
They say 38% of jobs by 2030.
Yeah.
But they also said that we would have AGI by 2030. We got it this year. That's
Right.
artificial general intelligence.
Right.
So when you can have a PhD slapping hamburgers together or answering phone calls
Right.
for American Airlines or processing, accounts receivable departments at an insurance company or what have you, you're going to see that mid-level white collar management level of America suffer.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to get assassinated.
Mm-hmm.
So are small businesses that haven't adopted AI and robotics tools and implementations, which is crazy because they're so fucking cheap. I was the other day, I built a disruption engine, GPT, and I'll give it to the guys on. If you'll remind me, I'll give you this.
Yeah. If you go to Trainwreck Show.
Yeah. And there's a button in the middle that says get tools here. And there's a bunch of tools we're giving you. Just go get the tools.
GPTs, tons of stuff. Go ahead and grab those.
But you can get a disruption GPT, which is really cool. I built this thing that tells you how to disrupt any industry. How can I disrupt any industry? And being funny about it, I wrote this book, and it's so up to date. It's been updated for 2011. This is how to start a hot dog business. This is one of the first things I ever sold years ago to use on hot dog carts. First info product I ever sold was a hot dog cart product. Anyway, I'm like, well, this thing couldn't disrupt the hot dog business. Tell me how you would disrupt the hot dog business with AI and robotics. And damned if it didn't. It was like, well, first you take all the traffic data from your city, which is publicly available. Mm-hmm. We'll run an AI analysis on it, telling you what times of the day to move your hot dog cart to different places to get the most food traffic. We'll set up dynamic digital pricing menus so that when you're super, super busy, a hot dog's $4, but when you're super, super slow, a hot dog's $2. So you're still selling hot dogs dynamically priced. We could put a robotic arm in that drops in the hot dogs and takes the hot dogs out and puts them on the bun. It's about $2,500, by the way.
Right.
That's it. $2,500. You put a robotic arm on a hot dog cart, which would be a novelty. When we were on I don't think we were on the cruise when we had the robotic bar, were we?
We were in Vegas.
There's a robotic bar on a cruise ship. We were on a cruise ship and had a robotic bar. Not you and I, a different cruise.
Maybe it was when you went with
with Bell.
Bell, yeah.
And they had a robotic bartender on one side and a regular bartender on the other side. There were 3 in line stacked at the bar to watch the robot make a cocktail for $18.
That's how it was in Vegas.
It's crazy.
That's how it was in Vegas.
There's a novelty to it. It talked about predictive buying of your supplies. If you could buy frozen hot dogs and buns in advance, and how you could not have more food waste by predicting your sales based on your previous trend. So yeah, you can automate a fucking hot dog cart, right? So you can automate your florist or your roofing company or your HVAC company to only keep your people in certain geographic areas so they're not driving too much, or predict the parts inventory that you need to do whatever. So the companies that are not adopting these things are going to get absolutely annihilated by the ones.
I don't think it's going to take till 2030.
Oh, I know it's not. I know it's not.
I think
everything's accelerating.
And what's super interesting is, and I just want to throw this out there, something I've been thinking about a lot, because I think a lot like, what the hell am I doing right now? Because what I should be doing is creating these automations and AI tools for companies like commercial HVAC. I should be creating these for companies that are doing mobile auto repair. That's what I should be doing.
And we talked not long ago about time, right?
Yeah.
If you can learn to build AI bots right now, it could take you an entire weekend to learn how to do it, right?
If you're stupid like me, it took me about 5 days.
Yeah.
5 days at night after work.
And trust her, she's pretty fucking stupid. So if you
should really stop paying me all the money you pay me then.
if you think about it though, you could learn this skill and be a master of it in, let's say, 30 days.
Right.
Right. And be out delivering something incredible, not in demand, but something that companies are going to have to survive. You know, we did our 60-day SaaS training, our 60-minute SaaS training, where we taught people in an hour how to build software with AI. Mm-hmm. Most people don't even build AI. You can build software with AI right now in less than an hour. Usable pieces of software, especially verticalized software for industries.
Russell, what he built in 2 hours.
I know, it's crazy, right?
It was like blew my mind. And there were some tweaks that he needed to do.
You need to show that to Devin just to piss him off.
But Devin tore it apart. Because Devin thought of 18 different uses of it because he's different animal. But I like just the things that we're capable of doing now are just insane. But I want to get back.
Well, there's gonna be an incredible tightening. If you want my first prediction, there is going to be a tightening and it's going to be good and bad. Short term, I think.
I don't know. Anytime I've ever heard of getting tighter, it's never been bad.
Even Trump, I think, is admitting now in the short term, this is going to be really rough.
Yeah.
Right. There's going to be a tightening. At the end of the day, automations are going to make everything cheaper. Right. Automation, AI is going to make everything cheaper.
It's not going to matter.
There's going to be less labor. There's going to be less waste. But it's a tough spot. I read a story not too long ago about the president of the United Auto Workers was walking through the Ford plant with the president of Ford. And he said, look here, Chuck. Let's say his name's Chuck. I don't know what his name is. So look here, Chuck. This is our fully autonomous robotic line that's building our Ford whatevers now. And it can build a car in 23 minutes with no human touching it. And he says, now, Chuck, how are you going to get that robot to pay his union dues? And the union guy says, I don't know, Bob. How are you going to get him to buy a Ford? It's a pretty good comeback.
Yeah.
Because, everything's going to be less expensive, but people are going to have less money to buy it. So there's probably going to be a universal basic wage eventually, which makes most people's heads spin off, but it's probably going to happen. It's almost inevitable. But in the short term, we're sticking to 2025. I think you're going to see a lot of layoffs. You're going to see a lot of tightening. Nobody's really thinking about the next time the employment numbers come out, all these government cuts are going to be in those numbers.
Right.
And maybe nobody cares that we cut government workers, right? Because that's going to be...
Except for government workers.
Well, that's going to be the argument. It's going to, they're government jobs. We cut a bunch of government jobs. But see, look, we did that for you. And they're trying to send everybody a $5,000 check right now so you'll shut up, right? That's the story.
You told me that.
No, it's absolutely true. So
I'll be shocked if it happens.
So, but let's get back to business and how that works in business. So at the same time all that's going on, we've got this other dynamic happening of consumers that have hit a point of exhaustion with providers.
Right.
They're sick of paying people a lot of money that don't deliver. And I call 2025 the death of the retainer. Yeah. I think retainers are no more. If somebody calls me, if they're on a sales call with me telling me what they're going to do for me and they use the word retainer, I instantly end the call. Mm-hmm. I'm done. You're thinking like, what is a retainer really? I'm going to give you money. I'm going to give my lawyer a retainer because when I'm going to prison,
he's going to get us on the phone.
I wanted to get on the
phone. Ryan Botti, we've given you money. You're holding for us.
I want to do that.
Nobody else though.
But I'm going to give you, what's a retainer? What does that mean?
I need to pay you for a deliverable now.
Yeah. I'm going to pay for a deliverable. I think that and I'll talk about this in the end. I think there's a giant opportunity because of that.
Right.
When somebody tells me they're going to charge me a retainer, it's like, you're going to my wife and wipe your dick on the drapes.
I'm not going to get into like specifics of people, but you and I had a conversation. It was a few months ago and we were trying to think through who's the best person at X.
Yeah.
Who's the best person at X? Who's the best person at X? And there were multiple categories that we sat there going, oh my God, are all of these freaking people frauds?
A lot.
Right. And it was
not all.
No, of course not.
And when you get to the top of the heap,
of course,
you usually got great people.
Right.
And they're super in demand.
Right. So they're untouchable. But there were multiple categories that we were looking at people and it was just unbelievable. So I think you're right. We went from being highly, highly skilled, highly trained to highly entitled.
Yeah.
Charging way too much for too little skill. And now comes along PhD powered thinking.
Right.
that is going to cure cancer, that is going to build robots, that you're going to be able to upload software to fix your plumbing. It doesn't have a tongue though, Elon. But I figured I'd throw it out there before you did. You'll be able to download software that will fix your stove, mow your lawn, pick up your kids. Right. I'm going to own 2 of them things, I promise you.
Well, they're saying right now that the humanoid robot from Tesla is supposed to launch in summer.
Yep.
They say that they're predicting within the first 2 years that the average home will own 2.3 of them.
Right.
If you can imagine that. It's the end of work as we know it. So when work ends, how do we exchange value for money? How do people exchange value for money?
Right.
Who don't have soft skills, right?
Right.
And even if you have soft skills, how are your soft skills going to measure
compete.
Soft skills?
It's not going to compete.
Of a PhD AI.
You're no longer going to be able to go get a job at a hamburger place because you made bad choices and demand $20 an hour.
Right.
Those days are over. Right. And it's kind of like, I don't want to get too much into politics.
So what do you do about it?
Not quite there yet. It's kind of like, very, very left, very Democrat. But it's kind of like the Democrats got in and we went so freaking far left.
So stupid.
And we went so far left with all of this like nonsense. It's going to be really hard for us to fight our way back. But human beings and entitlement went so far with, I need to be able to afford fair wages for my family of 2 with no high school diploma, no skills whatsoever, showing up at Culver's flipping hamburgers.
But there will.
So we had to come up with something to fix that.
There will be a certain salvation.
Okay.
That's going to come with.
Okay, this is what I wanted to get to.
You're going to hate this part.
I don't know.
I'm more central than you are. You may be a little more left than me. But I
don't know about that.
There's a certain salvation that's going to come with entitlements. Because
a salvation that comes with entitlements. I can't stand the entitled.
I know you can't.
I can't.
But
there's no participation trophies over here.
So here's what's going to happen. So imagine this for a minute. Let's say that all the experts are right and 38% of jobs are going to get wiped out by AI in the next 3 years. Let's say instead that's the next 24 months, which I think is more likely.
I think it's more likely as well.
So during the Great Depression, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had 20% unemployment.
Yep. Which isn't even close to what 38 is.
20%.
Right.
And there was violence in the street. The mob was born.
If you're not studying the Great Depression and what went on, one of the things that and I don't mean to cut you off, but one of the things that I really love to study is what happened in the world, but moreover, what companies weren't known that came out of it on top. Campbell Soup is one of them. I study the crap out of Campbell Soup because of it.
Yeah, tell that story. You were talking about that.
Sure. So Campbell Soup during the Great Depression, when it was nothing.
Right.
Nobody knew what they were. This is like condensed glove.
Yeah.
Right? And
which
so
now, though, it's
a household name. And they didn't change anything in what they were doing.
So much salt that it lasts 40 years in a can.
Right. Everyone cut their advertising budget immediately.
Yeah.
Campbell Soup took all of their money and put it in advertising.
And lowered pricing, I think.
And lowered the pricing.
Yeah.
I think it...
By a little bit.
I can't remember the exact number. I think it was 44 cents and they lowered it to 38 cents because they wanted to give back. But they literally weren't even... They were barely breaking even because they knew on the other side of it, they were going to become a household name for way less at the perfect time.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. Advertising costs were at an all-time low because no one else was doing it. No one else was doing it, so the only ones. And they were the people's soup because they lowered prices when companies were suffering. And so if you study companies that went from here to here during the Great Depression, I mean, you can really learn a lot. You should be studying that. I didn't want to.
No, that's great.
Because you were talking about the entitlement. Like, I want to hear that.
There's probably, it's almost inevitably, there's going to be entitlement because if you've got 38% unemployment, let's say, you got 38% unemployment, it's not like these people are going to bolt out the door and go get a new job, right? They're going to have to retrain. They're going to have to retrench. There's a super challenge with all these government workers because not only is a government worker doesn't have a job anymore, right? What they're not thinking about, that government worker's now not going to be able to make their mortgage payment.
Nope.
They're now not going to be able to buy things. They're not going to be able to buy another car for however long. So that's going to be economically heavy on the economy. And I don't think you or I, either one, are rushing out the door to see how many former government employees we can hire to come work for us.
Absolutely.
You know, you can say you hate the idea of firing all these government workers, but guess what? Nobody necessarily wants to run out and hire them.
No, they're the worst.
Yeah, they're the worst. So you're
27 days off a year plus 3 weeks vacation.
And they're going to expect that for at least
crazy benefits. Yeah, go.
They're going to keep that in their head for that.
And they're going to hold out.
They're going to hold out, and they're going to die on a vine holding out.
Right.
And so, you know, the reason I say there are going to be entitlements, they're almost certainly going to be entitlements. You can't have 38% employment. There'll be murder in the street. People will kill each other for food.
They'll have to.
You know, it'll be Mad Max, right?
Well, so you have the closest thing that you have is Dominica, and Dominica is 40%.
But you're going to
unemployment rate.
Insane, but at the same time, different than poor countries, you're going to have exorbitant corporate profits,
right?
Just massive corporate profits. So while the idea of taxing corporations more and giving more entitlements to people is hated by almost everyone,
there's a reason why this structure doesn't work for long.
Right.
Because historically speaking.
But there's going to be some interesting stuff that happens too. Like
I'm a capitalist for sure.
If Trump's,
but it's not going to last.
If Trump's plans work in America, you're going to see a very strengthening U.S. dollar on the global stage. So importing things is going to be cheaper,
right?
Because our dollar's worth more,
right? There
really is no currency. The only currency in the world today. Do you know what the currency of the world is?
Who has the biggest dick?
Well, for me, but for the rest of the world, there's only one currency. It's oil.
Right.
There is only one currency. The price of oil is the economy. It really, really, really is. And when gas prices don't go up and down because oil prices change. Gas prices go up and down because the value of the dollar goes up. So if the value of the dollar goes up, we buy oil.
Is that accurate?
100%. We buy oil cheaper because our currency's worth more. It absolutely is true.
Okay.
Because there's only enough oil to last for 300 years to power things in the world.
Yeah.
On Earth.
Right.
300 more years of oil and it's all over. And they're not.
And I don't believe that they're estimating that correctly. I think they should run that through some AI tools.
If there's that. So you're going to see nuclear energy development. That's a different thing I can talk about. Nuclear energy development's already on the table everywhere. Right. Something Elon Musk needs. He needs it because there's not enough power on the grid to power everyone having an electric car. Everybody's mandating electric cars in California by XX. We got to have so many electric cars, but California doesn't have
the electricity power to. They
don't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all those things that are going to shake out. But in our world, you know, I'd say learn a skill that's in high demand, charge reasonably for it, learn how to automate the process of delivering that thing. So here's all this sound like doom and gloom, horrible stuff, right? So there's two shining lights. Okay.
I went on a girls' trip a couple weeks ago and I had a conversation with my good friend. I've been friends with her for over 20 years. And she does basically pricing for very, 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 very high-end home remodels.
Yeah.
And she was trying to tell me that AI is stupid and that no one would be able to research like her. And I went into Operator and Star and I, you know, Star and I were in a room together and I was like, should I show her this? And Star was like,
it won't matter.
And Star looked at me and she's like, no.
You're talking to that wall.
Yeah. She's like, no, I wouldn't bother. But I could literally replace her. I think she makes probably $90,000 to $120,000 a year. I can replace that with
12 cents a day.
Well, 12 cents a day powered by a $7 an hour person in the Philippines.
There are going to be certain people that have.
And probably save you a ton of money on your pricing because it's going to be more accurate.
There are going to be people that have artistic skills. I think there's going to be still a value in artistic skills. There's still going to be a value in edge decision making, like decision making that is, you know, I read one time that the normal president, when a thing gets to the president's desk, it's a 49-49 decision. You don't ever take a 70-30 decision at the president's desk. Everybody else already made those decisions.
Right.
It's that decision where you're choosing between two bad options.
I say this all the time. I get to pick between fucked and fucked.
Yeah.
But which one gives us the least amount of fucked at the end?
Right.
That's why I think I'll always have a job. However, I am absolutely spending a lot of time learning from you, learning from other people, getting on YouTube and understanding how to use AI to gather the data to make those decisions.
I don't think the people that are like in Ignite, I don't think they have a clue how far ahead of the rest of the world they already
I don't think they do either.
I think that it'll be okay, though, because I think that when the time comes, that'll kick in and they'll still be well ahead of everyone else.
Of course they're going to be. The average business owner doesn't understand what AI is.
But they should be taking advantage of that knowledge now. What they're doing
and let me just back up for a minute, because we're on Trainwreck podcast and you're talking about Ignite. We have Ignite Mastermind.
Yeah,
is our low ticket. It's the only mastermind in the world where you don't have to be a millionaire to be in,
and it'll pay you to be a member.
So that's what he's talking about. We have Ignite members. We have about 1,000 members who are learning AI, who are learning automations, who are learning. We just finished our Write a Damn Good book.
Yeah.
With AI, and we did that in 3 days.
Yeah,
and then
many books got published. It was crazy.
And I didn't follow along for the 3 days. I did it in an evening. I followed the process and did it in one evening. So, but
and then driven masterminds for our bigger ticket folks that have been using it.
But a lot of these people in Ignite, I mean, we have candy store owners, we have real estate agents. They're utilizing tools that 0.01% of the planet is utilizing, and they don't even.
They're a finite number.
So far ahead. A custom GPT. Walk down the street and ask 50 people in Austin, Texas, which is a tech conglomerate of the world, not but it's one of them. You walk down the street in Austin, Texas. What's a custom GPT? What's a custom GPT? What's a custom GPT? They won't be able to answer.
I was on the phone yesterday with my friend Johnny from New York City. Johnny just raised $40 million in a fund.
Okay. He
invests in tech mostly with this fund.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't know what a custom GPT was.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
It's nuts.
So for you to think that if you learn any of this stuff, and I could teach you custom GPTs, any ding dong on this call, I could teach you custom GPTs in 30 minutes. But they can revolutionize a business, right? And you get some of our tools. Go to Trainwreck Show and get some. They're all free.
Trainwreckshow.com. We have everything on there is free. You just get the tools. We don't
some of the tools.
We don't try and sell anything like it's not.
But here there are two opportunities. So before I don't want to end totally gloom and doom, and I want to pull my brains out.
You're right. What's the two moments of light?
Yeah. So you're going to see a whole lot of people move out of white collar into blue collar.
Yep.
You're going to see a lot of it's already starting. If I were a younger man and had a lot of money right now, I'd start vocational schools, because I think that's going to be one of the best opportunities in the world right now.
Why haven't we started that?
There's not enough vocational schools. Unions
that are teaching AI automations and robotics.
The unions are beginning to invest money in.
If you can program a robot
into vocational schools, it's not hard.
I know.
You can buy one.
Do it.
You can buy a robot arm on Amazon right now for $339 and learn it over a weekend.
Yep.
I got one set in a box at my house right now. So, but blue collar is going to soar for a while, for probably a long while. Because when, like Emma said, well,
it's a stroke. Give him a second.
Wrench turners will be affected the last, right? There's a joke.
I disagree with that.
AI can't turn a wrench.
I disagree with that.
Hair stuff and things like that.
I disagree with that. When those robots are coming out, they're already utilizing robots in China. They're saying by the end of 2026, 2.5 homes are going to have robots. How many companies are going to have robots?
By the hundreds of thousands.
I think you're wrong. I think wrench turners. I think ditch diggers. I think
ditch diggers are screwed. Those are all robotic.
People
all those
who are
jobs
picking,
nobody wants to do.
Yeah, people who are picking fruits and vegetables. I think they're all, and I think they're.
Farmers. It's going to be different
because it's so hard to manage all of that.
And here's the craziness to this whole thing.
Yeah.
Right. And I've said this a couple of times, and I usually draw it out when I say it, but I wrote my own little formula that the economy is.
Yeah.
Right. So while you can be terrified of all this, we are probably going to end up as an economy being wildly wealthy. It's just a matter of where that wealth gets distributed.
Right.
Because here's why. And it's going to sound like, man, I've made all the Republicans mad. Now let me make the Democrats mad. So I make everybody mad. I'm an equal opportunity asshole. So the economy is a factor of only a couple of things. It's quite simple. It's people.
Yep.
Times production. Right. So This is your own personal economy in your home. This is the government's economy, a city's economy, a company's economy. It doesn't matter. You're going to have X amount of people in a company. If all those people are producing more money than you're paying them, then that results in
wealth,
profit, right? If you do it for a long enough period of time, that results in wealth, right? Same in your home. If you and your spouse make $300,000 a year and you spend $200,000 a year, then eventually, and you invest that, especially, you're eventually going to accumulate wealth, right? The problem is most of Americans live that $300,000 family is spending $323,000 a year because they got $23,000 hanging out on credit card balances or more, right? So we tend to overconsume, right? The United States government can't balance a budget. We bring in so much money in taxation a year, but we spend more money than we take in, and we borrow the differential from other countries and such. But when you think about the fact that pretty soon you're going to be able to produce an infinite amount of robots that produce but don't consume.
Right.
The last time that happened, here's where I piss off the Democrats.
What are they going to consume?
There's nothing for them to
electricity.
Consume. A little bit, but
a little bit of electricity. Minor amount.
Yeah, minor amounts. The last time that this happened in society, and it has happened before, right? And I could go back to Egyptian days and all the way up till the late 1800s, when we had slavery in America.
Watch it, Kentucky.
One of the biggest reasons for the Civil War was economic. The North was getting eaten up by the South. The South was becoming the industrial base of the United States. Because why?
They had free
labor. They had next to free labor, right? And it was humanely horrible. And the North used humanity as the reason why they wanted to shut down slavery in the South. The truth was, it was competition. The South was too competitive because they had an infinite amount of labor. Their production was much higher. So you don't see those great big antebellum mansions built in the 1800s in Connecticut. They don't exist. They exist in Alabama because they made millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars exploiting free labor or next to free labor. But that's going to happen all over again. But this time, the masters, so to speak, are going to be tech companies and people who own robots. And it's going to be a different thing. The economy is going to change. So while I think, Emma's, we disagree, I think, yes, robotics will get into blue collar, but it won't get into blue collar as quickly as it will white collar. White collar's so easy to work.
I don't want to ever go against you with predictions because you predicted quite a bit. This is one thing I think you're wrong.
I could be wrong. But
I think the low cost labor is costing us so, like, what was the quote you gave me earlier, or the statistic you gave me earlier? The average company is laying off $60,000 and making.
Oh, yeah. That is an interesting figure.
Yeah.
If you look at the layoffs this year from Meta, from Microsoft, from Google, they've all averaged
Exxon.
More than, I don't know about Exxon, but I know the tech companies, they've all averaged more than $1 million in additional earning per employee they laid off this year. Now, they weren't paying those employees $1 million.
Right.
So let's say they were paying them, let's go crazy and say they were paying them $200,000, which they probably weren't. But they're paying them $200,000, but they gained $1 million. How they do that? Because whatever they replace that employee with produce 5 to 10 times the production value.
Right.
So this is your opportunity. Okay. So I don't know what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years. I don't have a damn clue. And I think anybody that says they do is lying to you. I don't have a clue. But I think I do know what's going to happen in the next 24 to 36 months. And while these changes happen, immense wealth is going to be created. Right? Because right now, the average guy on the street, I could charge $10,000 to write somebody a sales letter right now, or I could charge $40,000. But I could charge somebody $10,000 to write a sales letter right now and write it in 30 minutes, and it would be a banger with not just straight up ChatGPT, but the things that I've created, and I know how to manipulate that GPT. So I can make $10,000 in 30 minutes. Somebody that needs articles written for their hospital blog, you could do all that stuff with your eyes closed. Somebody that needs to figure out how to put a robotic arm in to drop French fries into a basket. If you can learn how to do that, and it costs you $3,000, you could probably charge them $20,000.
Right.
Because you're saying, hey, look, you want to pay me $20,000 to put in this robotic arm, or do you want to
get rid of $40,000 to Hector, who needs breaks, who complains constantly, who might burn himself and sue you.
Sue you, or is pickpocketing out of the cash register, or just broke up with his girlfriend, or whatever.
You know what robots don't have?
Yeah, girlfriend.
Drama.
Yeah, drama. Yeah, they don't. So there's an opportunity here for you guys over the next 24 to 36 months, and it might be longer than that. It's probably going to be longer than that because robotics is going to be slower to implement because there has to be a physical embodiment of, you got to produce enough robots.
Here's the thing, though, and here's where it's been different than ever before. When the industrial age happened, you had to be trained and pay for training and take time to go somewhere to be trained on an industry. When computers were built, you had to be trained to use the computer. It wasn't easy.
It's the only technology that builds on itself.
Robotics, I can go into ChatGPT right now. The ones we got for our new Ignite members during our January event. I can go into ChatGPT right now and tell it to build me a manual, simplify it, sum it up for me. And then I can go into Flickr. I can put that in there and I can say, make me videos and train me on this. I pay absolutely nothing. Pay $20 for ChatGPT and $20 a month for Flickr. And I now have an entire course on how to use that I can sit over the next 2 nights, learn how to use. And I just taught myself a skill. Don't sleep on that aspect of AI because it can teach you how to use AI.
What's really crazy is the robots can actually be programmed by telling ChatGPT what you want the robot to do. So it'll write the code for the robot.
Right.
But understanding this stuff, this is all stuff, honest to God, I think any person of average intelligence.
I think you could be almost below average.
Could learn in, if you were diligent, 30 days. If you were kind of lazy, 90 days. And you can participate in the us versus them that's coming around the corner.
Right.
Because it's definitely coming around.
Yeah.
You're
I taught myself operator on a treadmill on YouTube.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you can squeeze the clock. I call it squeezing the clock. There's a clock ticking here, right? And eventually, yes, will everybody have access to this stuff and will everybody be able to do most of it? In 3, 4, 5 years, yeah. But even if you think about it, when I started on the interwebs, right? It's 20 years ago, roughly. And I was paying somebody $10,000 to build me the simplest of websites.
Right.
Because there weren't very many people that could do it.
Right.
Today, I can get that done for $10 on Fiverr.
$10.
Right.
What's funny is when I built the Shockwave site, we paid $3,500 for it. And that was just a few years ago. It was 5 years ago.
It's crazy.
And now it's literally, I don't even need to pay $10 because I can go in a Gamma. Right. And I can have all the copy written, all the images created, and the whole damn thing functional in 15 minutes.
And it's the worst. The AI and robotics are the dumbest they're ever going to be today.
The dumbest they're ever going to be.
They're ever going to be. So your opportunity is get into a group of people. Get on a Facebook group of people who like this stuff. Go follow people who are into it.
YouTube is the best.
Begin to learn it. Go on YouTube. Yeah. I learn 70% of what I learn in YouTube and 30% in groups.
Yeah.
And then I experiment.
Yeah.
Then I take what I learn and I figure out how I'm going to make that better. And, I've got some experience with this stuff. I've been working with AI for almost 8 years at one level or another, which people are like, there's been AI for 8 years. Mm-hmm. It's been AI since 1971.
Yeah.
Right. So there's been AI a long time. I got into it about 8 years ago on a kind of a hobby level. And so I've got a better technical footing in it than most people do.
You were speaking on it 5 years ago.
But I'm not a coder. I have a code handicap, or I'm not a coder. So the coders have a little bit more advantage. Not that they can write code, but just in the way that their brains work, the logic works. So, but I'm telling you, you could do shit this weekend that would make your friends think you just split the atom. It's magic. When people see AI work or robotics work, it's like, oh my God, how did you do this? Like magic. If I wanted to go be a super con artist and raise millions of dollars right now, I'd just stand up in front of a bunch of dumb people and show them something that was simple in AI, and they would just throw money at you. Right. So So there's a clock that you can squeeze here. But if you wait, every day you wait, you need to be feathering the shit out of your nest right now. Because in that 3 to 5 years, I don't know what happens. I really don't. Because, they're building robots about 5 miles from here right now. At the Tesla.
Robots are building robots.
That's what I was about to say.
5 miles from here right now.
To say.
Robots are building
the
robots.
robots are building the robots.
Musk came here and they gave him all kinds of tax breaks because he was going to bring all kinds of jobs.
Yeah.
And he brought robots to build the robots.
So how are, when robots can build robots, you've got, it's just like AI. Both these things are happening. These two giant technological developments are happening exactly the same time, simultaneously. And for the first time ever, I watched Bill Gates on a show the other night, and he was talking about, what do you think is going to happen? He's like, I don't have a damn clue. And if Bill Gates doesn't have a clue, I sure as hell don't have a clue. And I figure in the back of his head, he's got a couple of ideas. But he said, this is the only technology in the history of all technologies that builds upon itself.
Right.
So how do you gauge that? The answer is you don't. You just try to build your resources up. Try to keep your skill level sharp. Always be looking for the next new thing that's coming around the corner that people are talking about, and stay up to date until you've made enough nest egg to go sit on the dock and fish and not worry about that shit.
I think we need to wrap up, but I think you have 3 options right now. You can, 1, decide that we're crazy and AI stupid, and good luck to you. I'm sure you'll be asking me to mow my lawn, and I'm not going to let you because I have an AI. Right now, we have an AI.
I started to say see you at Starbucks, but pretty soon it'll just be the app in my coffee.
Right. Or it'll be sent to your house.
By the way, if you haven't noticed, when you go to Starbucks or McDonald's or any of those things right now, what the first question used to be, welcome to McDonald's, what can I do for you? Or what's your order? Can I take your order, please? What's the question now? Have you been through a drive-through at any of those lately?
I don't do that.
Number 1 question. Are you using the app today?
Oh, really?
That's the first question they all ask.
I know that Delta keeps trying to get me to connect all of these like fast food and coffee apps, but I don't partake in that.
Because people are paying Delta to get you into those apps.
Well, they'll give you points. They'll give you Sky Miles.
Because the app buyers today spend 35% more money than the cash buyers do.
Because they're being upsold by...
Yeah, and they get loyalty points and whatnot. And with the systems being built the way they are, you can hit the button on your app and order your caramel frappuccino. And I promise
1,400 calories.
I promise you, Starbucks has a caramel frappuccino robot in development or already in a store that's going to make that caramel frappuccino. It's going to go down an assembly line, and an arm is going to push it out the window to you when you get there. Yeah. And it's already they don't have to exchange money anymore. Yeah. Think of that. You don't have to exchange money anymore.
Right.
So it's the most amazing thing.
I have this whole theory on Revelations, the book of the Bible. Yeah. That's another day. Yeah. You and I are going to geek out on that. Right. So number 1, decide that we're crazy and not move forward, and good luck to you. It's not going to go well for you. 2, you can choose to really harvest skills utilizing AI, utilizing automations, and really dive deep into that. Or 3, retire. Go invest your money and make your money, earn money. And it might not be the worst idea in the world to start picking up a bunch of houses as the housing
invest
market
in technology, because invest in technology carefully because so many other companies are going to suffer.
Woke up and it was billions in losses, right?
Right.
So you never know, but
you never know. Be careful with technology, and don't be a sucker that goes for a shiny object of a new AI whiz kid thing that somebody shows you at the country club, because you're probably going to get fucked out of your money.
It's going to be irrelevant.
Because this is all going to. One last thing I'll tell you: if you do think about, well, I'm just going to invest in technology, I'll be fine. I don't know what the value of money is going to be. Number 1, nobody does. And B, when these things have happened in the past, railroads were huge. There were something like 900 railroad companies that raised billions of dollars by today's standards at the advent of the railroad. At the end of the day, there were 3. There were hundreds of search engines. At the end of the day, there was 3, and ultimately 1. All these there were hundreds of electric companies. At the end of the day, there's 1 GE, right? There's one, this consolidation happens, and a lot of people lose their money in really shady investments. But I promise you, one investment you'll never lose money in is your investment in skills. And whether you get it from us or you're investing your time in skills by being on YouTube and being in groups, go do that. Don't give me money. I don't give a shit if you give me money or not. It's not going to change my life, but it could certainly change yours if you don't learn these things and get in there and dig in and learn. I think you'll be, if you watch this with some degree of seriousness, I think you'll look back on this maybe years from now and go, this is a damn good use of my 45 minutes or however long we've been on here.
Probably an hour,
All right.
45 minutes.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the train wreck. We weren't as train wrecky today as we usually are. I hate you.
Okay.
I'm just trying to stir her up. She must have taken her Prozac this morning. All right. Thank you all so much for being on the Trainwreck Show. Go to trainwreckshow.com and
I stopped recording. I'm only kidding. It's recording.
Go to trainwreckshow.com and get a bunch of our Trainwreck tools. And at least you'll open yourself up to what AI can do. And I think
be careful when you're opening yourself up to Perry Belcher. You might leave with something you don't want. But open yourself up to some new ideas.
Not necessarily something you don't want. It's something you can't get rid of. All right. Thank you all so much for being on the show today. Take care.